Good afternoon, all. Thank you very much for coming today. My name is Jordan Finch, and I'm the managing partner of Finch Chevrolet Cadillac Buick GMC, a proud member of the Finch Auto Group. We are a General Motors dealership located right here in beautiful London, Ontario. Our auto group has 8 dealerships spread across southwestern Ontario, representing 14 brands. Today is a very exciting day for car dealers. Licensing and registering vehicles has been a routine process for dealerships for years, but takes a fair bit of our time. Dealers across Ontario, along with the Trillium Auto Dealers Association, has been asking the Ontario government for years to allow us to license vehicles at the dealership and save the drive across town to wait at our local Service Ontario office. Today, the Ontario government has answered the call. It inspires me as a business owner to see private sector and government working together to refine and improve a process for small business. I am very honored to introduce the Minister of Government and Consumer Services, Ross Romano.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Jordan. Good afternoon, everyone. It is an absolute pleasure, and I know I can speak on behalf of my colleague, MPP, Michael Harris, the MPP for Kitchener-Conestoga, when I say how pleased we are to be in London this afternoon and to be here with the great team at Finch Chevrolet. So again, thank you so much to Jordan Finch and to Kelly Fitzpatrick for hosting us here today. You and your team are absolute pillars of your community here in London, and an absolutely critical player in a program that is ramping up to become a valuable tool for car dealerships in Ontario. I want to offer a very special thank you to my colleague, MPP Mike Harris, who is an absolute and true champion of Ontario's car dealers and small businesses and entrepreneurs, for joining me on this very special day for the province of Ontario. Since we came into office in 2018, Premier Ford and our government have been focused on making life easier for the people and the businesses of our great province of Ontario. That is why I'm thrilled to announce that we are taking another major step forward in that direction with the launch of our government's digital dealership registration program. This is an ambitious online transformation as to how we register vehicles within our province. This is going to benefit car dealers and consumers in all corners of our province. The Digital Dealership Registration Program, or DDR for short, will make car registrations easier, more convenient. It's going to eliminate paperwork, save time, and cut costs for consumers and obviously for businesses as well. Today, DDR is being introduced into 40 dealerships throughout the province of Ontario, like the Finch Chevrolet dealership here in London. At full implementation, this program will provide over 7,000 Ontario car dealerships with access for the first time ever to an online program that is going to make it simpler, faster, and more convenient for Ontarians when they are purchasing a new vehicle or used vehicle. DDR eliminates paperwork and time-consuming trips to Service Ontario centres. It's going to reduce the administrative burden that dealerships face, which is going to save them time and money. This means less resources tied up in trips going back and forth from a dealership to a Service Ontario across town, just so that you can submit a form and pick up a plate. Now, dealerships will be able to do all of that through a simple online process right through their very offices in the back room of the dealership. And for customers, that means driving their new vehicle off the lot almost immediately after purchase, instead of having to wait longer for tedious and duplicative paperwork and processes. Looking ahead, DDR is going to streamline a whopping 4.8 million transactions that are conducted in person every single year for the purposes of vehicle registrations. By moving these transactions online, we are going to make vehicle registrations faster and more efficient, and we're going to increase the error-free registrations as well. DDR is a win for Ontario's car dealers and our consumers, but it's also a huge win for my colleague, MPP Mike Harris, whose work and advocacy on behalf of businesses over the last few years actually sparked the movement to implement this program. In fact, it was back in October of 2018, I remember MPP Harris bringing this initiative forward to our then PMB committee, and he had it titled as his private member's bill, Bill 50, which was the Cutting Red Tape for Motor Vehicle Dealers Act. And DDR is now bringing what MPP Harris had set out in Bill 50, which proposed to allow car dealers to electronically register their vehicles right into thousands of dealerships, and it's coming into our dealerships over the coming months. So I really want to thank Mike for the tireless effort on this front by putting forward this very innovative process through this private members legislation, which is allowing us to enjoy this announcement here today. You know, friends, this digital dealership registration is demonstrating yet another way that our government is in fact cutting red tape. We are cutting red tape for our businesses. We are improving the speed at which we can do business and the ease at which the people in this province can access government services, critical government services, just like a vehicle registration and permitting. By making common sense changes like we have just done today, by eliminating needless paperwork, we are saving consumers and the dealerships that serve them their precious time, energy, and money, and we are building a stronger Ontario. I want to thank you all again for giving us this opportunity and the privilege to join you here today in London at Chevrolet Finch, and I now want to pass it over to my good friend, MPP Michael Harris, who is going to offer a few words as well. Thank you.
So this is a pretty exciting day for me, and I've got some prepared remarks here, and my staff are going to go nuts if I don't stick to them, but I think we might stray off them a little bit. But I just wanted to say thank you very much to the Finch family, obviously, for having us here today, and as Minister Romano said, for being such great pillars of the community here. A lot of philanthropic work, and what you do for this community it's truly remarkable. The minister mentioned back in October of 2018, me bringing this private member's bill to the legislature. And I won't go into the minutiae of how that works, but essentially every MPP has an opportunity to bring forward one bill every year, have it debated in the House, and potentially have it passed, or depending on how things go, fall by the wayside. But this bill, I think, was seen as being something that was so important by you, Minister Romano, and your team at the Ministry of Government and Consumer Services, and many of them are here today, so I want to thank them for the work that they've done on this as well. This didn't get passed through the legislature, but what it did do was get adopted into broader government legislation, which we're actually here to celebrate today. So there's a few people I want to thank in regards to getting this done, and this is Minister Steve Clark. He actually introduced the first iteration of this bill back when the Progressive Conservatives were in opposition. And for whatever reason, the government of the day didn't believe that it was something that was important enough to pass through the legislature. And he brought it to me and said, Mike, this is something I think you can champion, and introduced me to somebody who we have here today as well, Frank Note from the Trillium Auto Dealers Association. And he and I really worked hand in hand to get this thing off the ground and get it through committee. And I want to thank you, Frank, for everything that you and your organization have done to see this come to fruition. So I really want to say thank you to Minister Romano. It's been great working with you and your team to see this come to fruition. It's such a big deal. I've had an opportunity to speak to dealers all across the province, and the time and money that it's going to save not only the dealers, but for people who are coming to buy a vehicle, can be a pretty stressful process sometimes, believe it or not. I know it's crazy to think, probably not here. I'm sure everything works pretty efficiently. But there's often times, especially in rural and northern Ontario, where your Service Ontario dealership or outlet might be closed. Maybe they close early on Fridays, so you can't take delivery of your vehicle till the next week. So it's really great to see this come to fruition. I'm so glad that we're going to have hopefully all the dealers hooked up here over the next year or so with this program. I can't wait to hopefully get a little demonstration of it a little bit later on, and just want to say a heartfelt thank you to everybody that's made this become a reality. And with that, I think we'll turn it back over to the minister if there's any questions. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. We'll go to the floor for questions. We'll do one question and one follow-up.
Hi, it's Dan Brown from the London Free Press.
How you doing, Dan?
Not too bad. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Good. Is there a price tag on the full package, the full DDR system, I assume a lot of that would be like web infrastructure, that kind of thing. Is there a price tag or a budget on it?
There isn't an amount that I can provide you with at this time. My apologies, Dan. Those are costs that were borne throughout the ministry, and there is no sort of sticker shock item that I can specify to you at this point in time. It was done within our existing resources within the Ministry of Government and Consumer Services. I think the greatest focal point here is when you look at the work that we've been doing at this ministry now for the better part of this entire mandate since really the beginning of the pandemic and beyond before that, our goal has been to try to take some of those top 10 Service Ontario transactions and move those online wherever possible. It's just about creating simpler, easier processes for people to follow. When you take this in its most practical element, somebody walks in the door today, they want to buy a car, they can drive that car home at the end of the day once this program is fully functional, as opposed to having to wait for the dealership to call them back another day. And I think everybody's probably experienced this at some time in their life. They'll come in, they'll buy the car, and then they'll make arrangements to come back in and pick it up at some time thereafter, because there's all of these processes that the great people at the dealership have to go and process. So that's their time. That adds up to be your money as well. This is just making a much more practical, simple process for people to be able to enjoy here in the province of Ontario, and to expedite the process for our businesses, our business owners who are selling vehicles across Ontario.
And when will full implementation be? When can that scenario happen that you described, that I walk out with a car?
We're starting now. We've launched with 40 dealerships. One of those 40, of course, is Finch Chevrolet, where we are here today. Those 40 were chosen as a starting point to look at the some that would be in a position to immediately transfer into this program. By the time we reach our maturity, we would anticipate over 7,000 dealerships across all of Ontario will be on this program. Of course, though, I do want to stress this. It is very important as we move towards more digital work. As we move more processes online, I want to assure everyone we believe in digital first, but not digital only. We still want to ensure that these transactions can be done in person for those who would prefer those types of transactions to be done. I know that wasn't your question, Dan, but I thought I'd fill that in for you anyway.
Okay, we'll go next question.
Hi, just Brian Bicknell, CTV News. Just wondering, does this mean a reduction in personnel at Service Ontario?
No, that is not the case, Brian, and thank you for the question. Obviously, we can appreciate that this is one of the highest volume transactions for Service Ontarios. Our intention is to maintain, through our continuity contracts with those Service Ontarios, the same level of service that they had in 2019-20 on a go-forward basis. So we are continuing that moving forward, and what we are doing is simply expediting processes here for our dealerships and our consumers.
With the process now streamlined and maybe a little easier, will it cost consumers less?
From a cost perspective, we are hopeful that we'll be able to see some of those types of reductions. In fact, yes, Brian, yes, that would be the goal moving forward.
Do you know how much?
I'm not in a position to specify. Obviously, there's still a lot of work to be done as we move forward, and we are just in those initial phases of it. As we roll out the first 40, which we are announcing here today, and then moving towards the 7,000, we'll have a lot more clarity on those types of numbers.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.